Well, we're visiting with Alan from the Vault, and a lot of exciting things happening at the Vault. It's our Discover Thursday feature, and Alan, let's just get right down to it. We walked through the place, and it's a mess, but
it's getting cleaner.
Yes, but let's talk about this remodel project. A lot going on.
Yeah, so we decided to sort of bite the bullet when we realized our kitchen was sort of not what we needed it to be for the level of volume and food we were doing. So we initially the restaurant started off as sort of a wine bar with some food, and over time the food has evolved to the point where now it's a really nice farm to table restaurant with a 500 bottle wine list. So it's the emphasis has changed a little bit. We're still hugely wine centric, but our food has kind of come more to the forefront. And to support that idea, we definitely had to switch out some of our stuff in the kitchen, including we have a Class 1 hood now, a 16-foot Class 1 grease intercept hood or grease fire suppression hood, and we're all gas now. Before we were induction burning, like the college used to do at the CC. They taught everybody on induction. Now we're all gas except for our convection ovens, which are still electric. And it's just going to give us a lot more bandwidth to do events and special services for people, and then also just our regular dinner service as well.
Business is like everything, right? You have a vision for something, and it's crazy the different tangents and directions it can go.
Yeah, I mean, really, when we started, we were looking at just sort of like a wine bar with, oh, we should have some salads, and oh, we should have some charcuterie, and oh, we should have some cheese. And by the end of it, we had a full kitchen staff, this deck. It just sort of spiraled and mushroomed, and it's a part of the natural evolution of a restaurant, I guess. But we just needed to kind of catch up to where we were going with our kitchen, and so that sparked this whole remodel. And of course, it was only going to be 4 weeks.
Sure, right.
And we stopped cooking in January in the kitchen. We moved to a temporary kitchen in our vault, believe it or not. The health department approved all that. We had commissaried all the food prior, froze all the food prior, and then kind of basically worked through everything we had and decided, and then we still weren't done with the kitchen, so then we kind of actually had to physically close end of February. But our expectation is May 10 for a reopen.
I may have gotten the cart a little bit ahead of the horse because I am excited about this remodel project, as I know you guys are too. But let's back up. What's the story of the Vault?
So I'm a physical therapist by trade. We had 3 physical therapy clinics. We had one in Blaine, one in Ferndale, and one in Point Roberts. We built freestanding clinics in all those locations. Well, we rented at Point Roberts. We built a clinic in Ferndale, built a clinic in Blaine, ran them for 20 plus years. And then I got a kind of one of those offers you couldn't refuse from a venture capital company in 17. And so I took it and worked for them for about a year plus, and then kind of separated our ways there. They're now my tenants. And in that process, we had some fund money from the sale of the clinics, and we were excited about commercial property as we have been over the years. And so the bank was available. It was actually our bank for the clinic, literally across the street. They shut it down in, I think, 15, and we had to do a different banking system for our office. And then it came up for auction in November of 16. And so it was an online auction, and we were bidding just like eBay for big kids. Every time you hit the button, it was $5,000, and they had a week-long auction, and the city was bidding it. I don't know what the city wanted with it, and then we were bidding, and there were a couple of people, mostly just the city and us. And I had a vision in my mind as to what the number should be, and I thought, okay, if I can get it for this, it'll be a great deal. So 5 o'clock on a Friday, I hit the button. I said, that's the last bid. You're high bidder. I hadn't been high bidder since the start of the auction. And then the city couldn't get the council together fast enough to finish to raise their ante, so we got it by default, which was great. And then we thought, okay, we got this bank building. What are we going to do? And we had a fitness center associated with the clinic across the street. We thought, oh, well, we'll expand into the bank building for our aerobics component. We thought about putting a pool in. That seemed kind of overly ambitious. And then we thought, well, what if we just did a small little wine bar? I'm from California originally, but I went to school in Eastern Washington and really fell in love with wine in my drinking era of learning about wine. It all coincided with Eastern Washington, so that's my palate. And I thought, well, there's so many great wines in Eastern Washington. I should just open up a little bar. We'll just do a little wine bar, and that'll be fun. And by the end of it, of course,
here we are.
Here we are. So it started off with great intentions of just buying a piece of property and maybe having a little bar that showcased Washington wine. And then by the end, this is what we have. And it's obviously not just Washington wine. I mean, it's all West Coast centric, but also we have a bunch of stuff from Europe and Old World, New World, all kinds of stuff.
We can talk about the food's important, obviously, the wine's important,
Yeah.
but really it seems to me the vision here was a nice, comfortable gathering place.
Absolutely, absolutely. We look at it as just sort of a place we'd want to go ourselves, and have it be not just a run-of-the-mill sort of corporate cookie cutter kind of situation. We wanted to showcase the Northwest. We wanted to showcase fresh cuisine. We wanted to showcase obviously the wines, and we are very much now becoming much more into farm-to-table style cooking. We work with a lot of different small grower producers in the area, small farmers, people who do hydroponic, microgreens, all the local cheeses. We work with local farmers and meat producers, and our goal is to have everything within 25 miles if we can. I mean, I think a majority of our menu items are probably in that category, a fair number of them, and probably 60-70%, and we want to see more than that actually, and then just showcase those ideas. And as well, we're looking at across the street at our clinic space, the lawn area that we never really developed other than to put a lawn on it. It's 2.5 lots, and we're going to build a garden there.
Oh, wow.
So it'll kind of be like an herb farm in Carnation, or the Willows concept of sort of on the everything's kind of grown on site. So we're looking to really push that idea here in the new season here.
Oh, wow. I love
Yeah,
that idea.
yeah,
So
yeah.
your own farm to
So,
table.
well, our own, so we'll have our own, seasonal vegetables. Everything is going to be sort of hyper local, hyper seasonal is the term we like to throw out there. So that garden space sort of folds into that pretty easily.
There's always lots of activity that goes on here too. It seems like every time I turn around, I see the vaults doing trivia, and I know
Right.
that's a weekly.
Yep.
You have lots of weekly events, and then you have some special events too.
Right.
Matter of fact, right after you reopen, we're looking at a Winemakers Dinner.
Yep. So one of the things we decided early on was we were going to showcase how great our kitchen staff is, along with how great the wines are we can get a hold of, and it's not outrageously priced. I mean, we're very reasonable compared to like anywhere, honestly. But yes, Wandering Wolf Cellars is going to be here May 20th. They're at Eastern Washington, small producer. I think they probably have like I want to say less than 500 case production run. And they are going to be doing 5 wines, and we'll pair it with 5 of our courses from the kitchen. It'll be $100, including tax and gratuity, out the door per person, and those sell out fairly quickly as well. Our wine club typically has first crack at those tickets, but because we're just sort of reopening everything in a hurry here, we're just pricing it real competitively to try and get bodies in the door and show people what we can do.
Tell me about your wine club.
So the wine club is anybody can join. There's 3 levels. There's the 2 whites is 50, 2 white wines. A red white mix is 75, and 2 reds is 85, and that's per month. And everything you get through the club, if you get the whites, the reds, or the mix, everything that pencils out retail or better on those prices. So often we're working with our distributors, and we're finding wines that we've had a single red wine bottle in our monthly wine box that's over $140 retail. If you look it up online, but we're including it in an $85
Wine box.
pair of wine. So it's unique. We always try and tell a story, whether it's California, Europe, different styles, different vintages. We're always sort of comparing and contrasting, trying to showcase some cool stuff, and then always providing that each month to the people who are the club members. They typically would get the first crack at the wine dinners. We release the tickets to them about a week before the public. So there's that benefit. Wine club members also get 10% off in the restaurant for any wine or food, and then they also get 15% off any wine to go.
The word craft has been used a lot here lately. Craft beer, obviously over the last 20 or 30 years, craft cocktails is a term, but the wine industry has always been craft. And the way I like to describe that is it's got a story behind it, and wine has always had a story behind it.
Big time. Yeah. So that's I think why I like wine so much is in the sense that there's always a cool backstory. There's always the guy who went in and saved the old vines because they got neglected and this, that, and the other, and cleared back, you know, this stuff that was all overgrown and rehabilitated this place, or you know, the family's been in it for a couple hundred years, or they were homesteaders and on this piece of ground, and then they started to get into wine. I mean, there's so many cool stories, and it's just universal. And then just how unique each wine is, given its terroir, given its you know, how they put it together, what barrels they used, what yeast they used, the sunlight that year, the temps that year. I mean, there's always a story. Even the fires, even the big time fires in Oregon and Washington in the last few years, they tell a story. Just ones that survived, ones that had a little bit of smoke taint. That's still the uniqueness of that vintage. That's still what Mother Nature gave them that year. And so it is a bit of a record of what happened, and a testimony to the people that put it together. So that's probably my favorite part of the wine.
I had an ice wine once, Alan. That was the same thing, just purely circumstantial, based on the conditions that year.
Yeah, exactly. It's the cards they were dealt. And so, I mean, you know, producers that are renowned, you know, they're good at what they do, but they also tend to be in places where there's less, you know, fluctuation in those things, but there's always fluctuation. So there's always going to be changes. There's always going to be differences, and that's again what makes it unique and what makes it cool. You mentioned craft, and that's something else I should bring up. We have June of this year is going to be a 1-year anniversary of our cocktail program.
Okay.
Maybe 2-year anniversary actually, but we do a craft cocktail program as well. So we're sourcing craft liquors, and then my son Jacob is involved in all of the recipe and formulation for all the craft cocktails we do. It's all by hand, nothing's in a gun, nothing's pre-batched, and a lot of people don't recognize maybe that we do cocktails now as well, because they think of us as a wine bar.
Yeah.
But that's something we actually are doing also, and our pricing on those is real competitive for what you get at sort of a gun type cocktail, but it's all handmade. So that's another cool little feature of what we're doing.
And Whatcom County has become a mecca for craft beer lovers as well, and I know you carry local craft beers.
We do. We aren't as big on the beer, obviously, as we are on the wine. We have 4 to 6 taps, depending how we run it during the year, but they're always showcasing local wines, or local beers, pardon me. So we always have stuff from the Bellingham area, mostly. Occasionally we'll go outside and get something from a Portland, but primarily it's all Northwest, and primarily it's all Washington.
This is a family affair too.
Absolutely.
I met your daughter when I came in. You mentioned your son.
Yep, and my wife, Joni, is my partner in crime. She's the brains of the operation. She likes to, as I say, pull the strings behind the curtain, and she's really good at pulling the strings behind the curtain. We jokingly say when she walks out onto the floor, it's a unicorn sighting, because nobody recognizes her and really understands. Few people understand who she is, but she prefers that, and that's her gift, and it works out for us.
Circling back to a gathering place, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention you have a lot of different aspects to this place, and a lot, you know, you have your studios, you have the bistro. We're sitting here and talking on the deck. All of these available for private gatherings.
Absolutely. So we have, depending on how we orient it, we can do up to probably 100 people. I mean, if you lease the whole restaurant, you can probably get maybe a little more. The deck takes about 40. The bistro takes about 40. The studio takes about 50. But that's pushing tight, and we want to have quality control for our food and delivery of all of our stuff. So they could lease the deck, they could lease the restaurant, they could lease the studio, or all of the above.
Family reunions, if you're wanting to impress the big boss with a meeting space, this would be
We also have that little library room in the back that's also available. But so we do a lot of rehearsal dinners. We had a wedding ceremony and reception here a couple months ago, right on the deck, which was kind of fun. We've got a lot of 90th birthdays lined up, and rehearsal dinners lined up, and our wedding season's getting started as it will in June, July, and August, and we already have a lot of inquiries and some deposits on those events, and those really help us out, obviously outside of our regular service, and it's just a fun thing to do.
The food, everything coming back on May the 10th with the brand new remodeled kitchen. And one of the things that Sandra sent me in her notes, she said a fresh menu that has some of the old favorites, but also some new favorites as well. Or you have one you're particularly excited about?
We're beta testing our veg lasagna, which is a family recipe that I've had for years and years. And so we're trying to figure out how we can put it together in the kitchen and make it come out the way I make it come out at home. And we will have that with some fresh pasta, either from Bellingham Pasta Company or our own fresh pasta that we make with a pasta maker. That'll be one of the new items on the menu. We'll carry our beef dip forward. Everybody loves the French dip. It's prime, prime meat, roasted ourselves. We have our charcuterie and cheese are pretty renowned. Great salads. We do a mushroom risotto. We'll probably play with our flatbreads a little bit more. And then we always kind of surprise things. We bring out some ribs once in a while, or we'll bring out a seafood dish or a cioppino or those kinds of things as well. So we'll have our Nurka salmon, where we work with salmon producers out of Alaska and locally, and we buy the whole fish, fillet them ourselves. We'll have some salmon this year as well.
Outstanding. May the 10th is when the vault will be reopening. Come check out the changes. Alan, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Sasha. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right. Appreciate it.